Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Saturn Return Diaries podcast slash, I guess now on YouTube. I'm super excited because I'm talking to the one and only Jen
Oh,
Abra.
people are like, who?
I feel like I had to say that. I just wanted to. No, I'm so excited because actually, Jen and I have never met in real life, but through the online space and 2020, what it was, I was connected to so many different people, and Jen was one of them. So, yeah, this is so exciting to hear her story from Saturn Return era. But what I will say is that I remember this time last year, I think actually, you came on my IG live and we talked about like Bravely Beautiful and what that kind of meant to you and your Bravely Beautiful journey. So I just feel like this is so cool to have like this kind of turn into this route. So thank you for being here. Do you want to
No, thank you.
give people like a little bit of insight into who you are? I say like I don't want to say like what you do, but like who you are on
I know.
yeah.
I always say, who are you being? Who are you being? Instead of,
Who are you being
yeah,
today? Yeah.
who am I being? I don't know. I can be whoever I want today. But I was gonna say we will meet.
Mhm.
There's some plans in the work, and you're like, we never met in person, and I'm like,
It's
we
kind
will. Don't worry.
of,
It's already happened. Yeah, it'd be super fun to meet you. If we need to get a big meeting here of all the people in Canada and Ontario that have like a big let's meet court date. Not court date,
oh,
but Courtney date.
a Courtney date. I'm
Yeah,
into
Courtney date.
yeah, I'm into this. We'll make it happen. Um,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
but like, what about Jen? Tell us about
Okay. Well, okay. So, yeah. So I am. I guess I'll just start with the service. Like, I guess I'm a medium. I'm a psychic. I love what I do. I do Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a life coach. I'm a mentor, and all these things. I feel that's why we kind of maybe resonate with each other is because you also do a lot of things, and there's things that we do that people don't even know that we can do because when we're doing these things, they sort of evolve
Yeah.
quietly, and then one day we wake up and go, oh wait, I can do this too. And then we just keep adding more and more and more.
Mhm.
So I love everything about this. I am a former kindergarten teacher, which is kind of a cool story that I'm sure people who do know me have heard the story a bajillion times, and maybe they're tired of it, maybe they're not. But that's sort of like a cool process that sort of evolved out of who Jen is. And I could go into the really deep spiritual Cucamonga, like who is Jen? Well, Jen is just this house. This is the house of Jen. This you guys can't see me, but the body is where Jen is living on this life and lived many lives. And I'm sure I've known Court in a past life as well too, because whenever you meet someone, you're very familiar with them, and you feel like you've known someone. That is usually an indicator that you have some past experience with them on a soul level. So,
Oh yeah,
how's that?
I love that. And first of all, people can see your house on YouTube.
Oh,
There,
okay. Here's my house. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. I'm so used to the podcast because I do a podcast and I'm like,
I
nobody can
know,
see
I
me. I look
know.
like a bum.
We're
Yeah.
branching out. It's and so you know what?
Yay.
Ourselves. This is good. But I actually really like how you touched on like that energy of like almost like soul fam, like connecting to people because I was thinking about this the other day and I'm like, how so cool is it that we've connected online and we have now all these like different groups of people and I truly do feel like moving into 2022, like you kind of
Yep.
just said, like I feel like we're going to get to meet
Yes.
those people in real life and it just proves that energy is real, people. So
That's right. Don't need no scientists. I always say people are like, "Oh, it's conspiracy." I'm like, "Actually, it's not. It's energy."
yeah.
So going back to what I do, what I embody is energy reading. I'm an energy reader. Like I read energy.
Mm,
Right? So when I tune into your energy, I don't need to because it's so big and expansive and it reaches all the way to Ontario, which is great. I don't know how great that is for you to have your but like people like know you. If I say to someone like, oh, blah 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 court, and they're always like, oh, that's the girl who does this, or that's the fun girl who was on your podcast. Do you know what I mean? So it's really reaching out without you even it's like almost like you wouldn't even need to be on social media. Like do an experiment just like for a week, just be off there and just like spread your energy out. And I feel like you would have like more people going, hey, who's this court girl? And
Is
Yeah.
this a sign? Is this a message for me to take a break from social media?
I feel like you've already got that message a bajillion times and they're just being, but you're not listening. So you will have to listen if you don't. They will make you listen.
I
So
know, I know, I
yeah.
know, I know. Here's like just a fun fact. This is what happens when Jen and I chat, by the way.
Yeah.
We will get to the juicy parts. But
Yeah.
here, so for those of you who don't know, Jen does I always tune in every Wednesday. It's like how I finish off my work day before I go to the beach, of course.
Yeah.
But she does this radio show, which is it's air, what's it called again?
A1R Psychic Radio
Right,
Network.
right. And
Mhm.
it's so cool because, she kind of gets on there and talks with her husband. She's also had people on there who she's chatting with, but then afterwards there's a like after party. And
Mhm.
one of the times she had an after party and had a guest on and they were doing free readings and brought through my papa. And it was this like basically like get off your computer. And I was laughing so hard because I'm just yeah, anyway. So
Yeah.
go check that out. I'll link everything below.
Yeah.
Um, but so fun. So anyway, let's kind of get into this a bit. So of course, like if you're new here and you have no idea what we're talking about, we're going to talk about Saturn returns today. And if you've never listened to the previous episodes, I highly recommend going back and listening to those just because I kind of break down what a Saturn return is, what a Saturn is, what's going on during that time of your life. And the goal or intention with these podcasts is to have other people share their stories during that time. So we're going to have Jen chat a little bit today about her Saturn return. And before we do that, I kind of want to ask you, do you know your sun, moon, and rising?
Yeah, and the only reason I do is because of you. Because I had a birth chart reading, and that just sort of clarified and like put in stone everything that I believed in or what I was doing. So if you need your birth chart read, book one with Court. But
Right,
so
girl.
you told me, well, okay. So my sun is the main one, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Sagittarius, so
Yeah.
I'm a fire sign.
Mhm.
Moon is Pisces. What's the other one? So sun, moon, rising, Leo.
Yeah.
Which if you like know the terms and the energy behind them and the meanings behind them, if you know me, you're like, oh, that makes total sense,
Yeah.
right? So like fiery, passionate, like in your face most of the time, then very emotional and sensitive. And I've been called dramatic my whole life. Why are you so sensitive? And I'm like, well, because my rising, what was it? My moon is Pisces. That makes so much sense. Okay, so that's how I was born.
Yeah.
And the Leo part too is bravery and putting yourself out there, and those kind of, I mean, those are only a little bit of the meanings, I'm sure. But when you put all those together in like a little package, it makes total sense of that's who I embody. That's my essence, kind of thing. So
Oh, totally. And I'm so glad that
mhm.
you kind of like brought that into it because I was going to ask you, is there any parts of this that are your signs that you
Yeah,
really resonate with? So I
all
like
of them, all of them,
all of the
all of
above.
them.
Check. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And as we're kind of like doing this right now, doing this podcast currently, it's Cancer season, which means that that's right before Leo season. So there's a lot of transition for Jen because she has her rising sign in Leo, which means that she's kind of working with 12th house energy right now. That's kind of that's conversations for a different day, but it's just, kind of interesting to kind of pull out knowing that right now she's moving towards kind of embodying more of her rising sign, which is about being seen, which is about using your
yeah.
voice because of Leo. So thank you for being here and stepping into that today.
Yes, I love doing stuff like this, and
Yeah.
it's so funny that I do actually feel that, and some people might not believe fully in astrology, and but like there is some, there not some, there's a lot of like,
Mhm.
I want to say clout to it. There's a lot of things that do apply because it's energy and it's universal, which is what we as light workers and healers and mediums and psychics work in. We actually work in that world. So it has to make sense that we actually embody these energies and these ways of being. It's just like the Leo, and I'm seeing that my gifts are actually getting stronger, which I didn't think was possible because I thought I was pretty powerful in my gifts already, but now I was like, wait a minute, what,
Mhm.
I can do this now, I can do this now. And so like it makes, and I feel like I am getting that roar, even though I already had the roar, it's getting like, the male lion roar instead of the female lion roar. It's just going to get louder and louder. So watch out.
I love it. We love this. Yeah, embody all of that. It's so powerful to have. I always say people who have rising signs in Leo, it's almost like, first of all, they make really good teachers because they're kind of like the ones at the front and who can like be seen and who can spread a message, so to speak. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that teaching has to be in a way that is the norm. So because you also have Sagittarius sun, this could also mean that someone who's here to like teach and kind of bring philosophy to the world. So you do really embody
But
a
there,
lot.
you just proved the point of astrology being true, because I literally was a kindergarten teacher. As a kid, that was my dream, to be a teacher. I remember playing with the little Fisher Price thing, and I was the teacher all the time with my dolls and my friends. And then I left that career to do this, and I'm teaching in this realm. So
Mm.
see, there's another point you just proved.
So
That
many goodies
it's
with
like,
astrology.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay, we're gonna dive in. I'm gonna ask you a few questions and prompt you
Hmm.
throughout, just so then that way
Yeah.
you can get some like I guess good insight on what was going on. But yeah, I just want to like actually put this in here that when I read Jen's book, so last year when I first met her and I was on her podcast,
Hmm.
um, then she was so kind and she sent me her book. And as I was reading it, I didn't know that you were a teacher and you had gone on a leave of absence first. And that is
Yep.
exactly when I was going through mine. So I just wanted to put that in there because people, the teachers that you need,
Mm.
find you at the exact time that you need them. And I remember reading those lines and being like, oh my God, like this is like exactly what I was feeling, what I was going through. And I needed, not needed, but it's almost like I had someone like energetically holding my hand. It kind of makes me emotional to be like, I did this and you can do this too.
Yep.
So that I just wanted to put that in there. And this is why we're
Yeah.
here. So
Right. That's
yeah,
right.
um,
Spirit brings you the people that you need at the perfect time.
totally. And yeah, hopefully this helps people as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did your sun, moon, rising. Now we're going to talk about your Saturn sign. So do you know what your Saturn sign is? No,
I don't.
I
You're
got
going to tell me because you're the expert in that.
I got you. So Jen's Saturn is in the sign of Cancer and it's actually in the 11th house. So we'll break that down a little bit just so that people kind of understand. So first of all, Saturn is about structure in our life. It's our biggest teacher, karma, lessons that we have to learn, kind of come through Saturn. And when we're going through our Saturn return, it really amplifies going the distance, so to speak. And when you have Saturn in Cancer, that can bring about things like becoming a mom. Cancer is nurturing energy, it's motherly energy. It has to
Mhm.
do with, the divine feminine. The fact that it's in your 11th house tells us that there can be expansion in the either your community, your friendship groups, collective. And so having those pieces of the puzzle kind of help. Another kind of thing that's interesting about Jen's chart for those astrology lovers out there who will understand this is there's a trine for you between your Saturn, which is in the 11th house, it's in Cancer, and then Mercury, which is at the bottom in your fourth house. Look at, I'm doing this off memory right
Good
now.
for you. Look at
Yeah,
you.
fourth house in Scorpio, and then your moon, which is in the, I think it's the eighth house of Pisces, and a trine is like a favorable aspect. So it kind of is very intuitive. It's helpful in our charts. We can use this energy really well, and she has it between three water signs. People, three water signs. Like
Is that
that's
why I'm crying all the time? No, just
yeah.
kidding.
And it's like pure, like it's purely so intuitive and so based on like, yeah, emotions and feelings and emotional intelligence and all these things. So the fact that like your Saturn kind of is the pointer at the top of this trine tells me that there's a lot of like lessons on how to use that energy to your advantage in the structure of your life and in the greater scheme of things in the 11th house for the collective.
Yes.
So Whoa, that was probably a lot of
Whoa.
info,
Yeah.
but now we're gonna break it down a bit here. So, what was happening in your let's go back a little bit. So, around the age of 27, what was happening for you in your life then?
I was always pregnant, man. I was having babies like out the wazoo, literally. So, yeah, so around, you said 2007, right? So, that would have been right after the birth of my third child,
When you
my
were
first daughter,
27?
when I was 27.
Mm,
Yeah, so, my second.
okay.
So I was pretty young when I had my first, and then my second, I would say around the second. But that's interesting because after the birth of my first son, I was great. Everything was great. We moved or whatever. But then after the second one, I ended up getting postpartum depression.
Mm,
So as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, well, that was different than before. So, but that, back then, like just for backstory, when I was that young, I had no idea about any of this stuff.
mm,
Completely in the hermit mode. I was having babies. I was trying to get through my day, sleepless nights, all that good stuff. I had no idea there was anything else outside of that. Okay, so that's a good backstory to the history of the future. But yeah, I was postpartum depression. I had just moved. Okay, so here we go. Here's some new stuff. We had just moved from Sarnia to Orangeville. I didn't know anyone. Didn't know anyone. I had just started making a whole bunch of friends. We would get together and have tea and whatever and hang out, watch soap operas. It sounds really boring, but like it was like a big transition for us from one city of knowing people to a whole other one of not knowing anybody and trying to navigate my way around the community, having small children, right? So there was Ontario Earlier Center that we have here. I don't know if we still have it, but that was my lifesaver. And if I didn't have that place, like, when you have depression, you have horrible thoughts and you shouldn't be alone. And that place actually saved me. So now that I'm saying it out loud, a lot of things really transpired out of that time period that were leading me up. I can see the steps now, the breadcrumbs leading me up to where I ended up.
mhm,
So
mhm. And so
yeah,
just to kind of go back a little bit. So at this time you had moved. How old were you when
yes.
you moved?
Oh gosh, I don't know. So what's do me some math. 2003.
Okay. Math is
So eight.
not strong.
Yeah, I know, I'm not either. I had to Google, okay?
We don't need to do the math, it's fine.
Okay, listen. That's why
Yeah.
I used to be I said I'm a kindergarten teacher because I'm not good at math. And I don't
Right.
need to know math in kindergarten.
No, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you basically you had moved, you were in this new place,
Yes.
didn't know anybody, and
No.
you had 2 children at this time.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then through that, after the second child, you were experiencing postpartum depression.
Yes. Big
Okay.
time.
All right. And were you 30 yet by that point? Do you know?
Um, Close to, if not 30.
So the reason why I asked is because there's and I can look this up. I won't do it now, but maybe I'll do it
Mhm.
after and I can pop
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
But when we go through our Saturn return, there's a point in our life that happens right before, and it's a progressed moon return. And what it does is it sets us up for our Saturn return. And a lot of the time, what happens, so the moon basically comes right back around to where it was in our charts when we were born. So yours would be in Pisces again. And
Mhm.
because it's a water sign, um, around the age of 27 is when a lot of people experience depression for the first time. And it lasts
Wow.
that progressed moon tends to last about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So
That's about the time it happened, how long it was, because then I had my daughter in 2006, and I still had postpartum depression. They're 2.5 years apart. So that makes a lot of sense. But when I had my first daughter, the third child, I remember going, I don't want to do this anymore. I was remember going to see a therapist, and she's like, you have to do cognitive behavior therapy. I remember being so angry about that. I'm like, what do you mean cognitive behavior therapy? That's for people who are whatever. And she's like, yeah, you. So when you think about it, if you think about when this therapist was telling me to do cognitive behavior, but basically she was telling me to get a hold of my thoughts, because that's how depression sometimes
yeah,
enhances itself, is the thought that you have. And now that we're, you know, here in this time, we're really good at controlling our thoughts. At least I've worked very hard at that without even knowing it was called that. Do you know what I mean? So we
yeah.
call it a mindset shift or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's so interesting that you're you're bringing this out, because I was like, oh, I didn't do anything. It was so boring. Like, I don't know why you want me to tell you about my, like, so many things happened that were just like the depression makes so much sense. And the, everything, it just makes, I'm just having like brain explosion right now.
Yeah, it all leads to it. So, I mean, it's such a transitional time anytime we're going through a Saturn return.
Mhm.
It does change our structure. So, like I said, like a big part for you, clearly it sounds like,
Mhm.
it was moving, it was
Yeah.
having children. So,
Yeah.
let's kind of dive in a little bit more then. So, when you were around, so were having your third child,
Mhm.
what was kind of happening, I guess, throughout this process of like having babies and kids, and like where were you working, and just kind of give us more details.
Yes, that's a change too. So actually, what happened was, I had my daughter, and then we moved again in town. And then I got the job that changed everything for me, was working at the private school in Orangeville, where I had my own classroom. I That was my like most like favorite job I've ever had in my life. Even though, and there was so many lessons in that job. Looking back at that, so many, I learned so much about myself in that job. People pleasing and trying to get people to notice me, and validation, and I'm the best teacher there is in here. Look at my bulletin boards, and just trying to stand out, being seen. So right, so you talk about being seen, and that for me, it was really hard to be seen. I felt like I was not seen. So, and I remember getting that job and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And it, like, so many things happened in there as well, too. Like, I remember having an interview and I didn't tell the director that I had a baby because I really wanted this job. Because I'm like, if I tell them I have a baby, I think she was 6 months. If I tell them I have a baby, they're not going to hire me because they'll think that I can't handle it. But I need to get out of this house. Like, I remember thinking, I can't stay at home with these kids anymore. I need to go do something, right? Because I was a teacher and that's what I love to do. And they hired me. Like, I knew when I got home. That's like one of my first psychic instincts, which I wasn't psychic back then. Was like, I came home and I'm like, I got the job. And Chad's like, how
Mm,
do you know? I'm like, I just know. And then 2 seconds later, the phone rang. They're like, we'd like to hire you. And I'm like, I knew it, right? So just like so many things. Like, yeah.
wow. Yeah, that's so cool. So it kind of like started
Mm-hmm.
to, it was almost like, sounds like, at least like once you started having kids and once you started to
Mm-hmm.
kind of put yourself out there more again,
Yes.
like things started to go on a roll, would you say?
Yeah. It just, you know what? Like, I don't know if this is what you're like, the answer you're looking for, but honestly, the if those things had not happened, if that Saturn return and the time period, and if none of those things had ever occurred, I would not be. And you said, who's Jen? Well, I would not be Jen that you know now if I had not. Now I'm getting emotional. If I hadn't gone through all of those things, because all the decisions that I made, and the passion to get out there and teach and do what I love to do, and it just, and all the people that I met, and the way things went down, and like the whole thing was like setting the stage for me to be who I am now.
Mm.
100%.
I love that you just said that. Like the whole thing
Yeah,
was setting the stage for me to
it
be
is.
who I am now.
Yeah. If I hadn't gone through any of that, I would not be
Mhm.
this. I wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally call the Saturn returns like a portal to,
Yeah.
a new life. And I
Yes.
think that's why it scares people a lot, right? Because we're
Yeah.
so used to doing things in certain ways. Whatever, and that's why it kind of breaks away the walls of like everything that we've ever known, which, yeah, it can be scary, and it is
Hmm.
a lot, but at the same time, like hearing you say that, like I wouldn't be who I am today without
Right.
all of that, is so powerful for people to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't fear it, because it does take a long time,
Mm.
like years, right? For me, that was years. And
Yeah.
then when things changed and I had to leave that job, and there was a turnover, I remember being so devastated at the end, probably of the time that you're talking about. And then another whole phase of my life started. So if anyone's freaking out about, their Saturn return, don't, because you can't actually be rebirthed. You can't be birthed into who you are without going through it. You
Mm.
don't see it till after. Like,
Yeah.
you literally just pulled the curtain over my eye, off of my eyes, going, "Hey, you didn't do anything exciting? Wait a minute. Okay, well, I think I did."
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like it's such a powerful time to like I don't know. And obviously I'm going through mine right now. And this is why I wanted to do this, because I feel like it's just such a, yeah, I don't know. People need help. I get DMs all the time. Like, what is happening? Like, why do I feel this way? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And again, the pull the cover over the eye,
Yeah.
you realize
Yeah.
and you see.
It's
So
like the veil, it's like the veil has been lifted. Get it? You can't, like, even for like the mediumship world,
yeah.
seriously, you can't see the spirit world unless you go through all this stuff, because you
Mm,
have so much crap on you of these beliefs and you know what I mean, like resistance to stuff. But as soon as you go through it and you're on the other side, the veil gets lifted and you can see again, right? Like I'm hearing, I can see clearly now the rain. Like you can
yeah.
see everything now. Like you just did that for me. Like what a gift that you do for this podcast, and everything that you do is like you actually made me take the curtain off my eyes and go, oh my God, I can, like I
Mm,
knew that like the things that I had gone through in the Saturn return were, you know, they were okay, but now you don't like till you start speaking it out loud, or you look back on it,
mhm.
right? You're just like, oh my gosh, like what an amazing gift that was.
Totally.
Yeah.
Aw. Yeah, I'm really like happy to hear that. I think that, we don't give ourselves enough credit for everything that we go through.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just feel like people have stories, and everyone has something that they've been through to get them to where they are. And this is why I really wanted to do this. So you kind of just said, like, I think you said, like, don't fear it. Like, there's going to
Yep.
be on the other side, but I'm kind of curious, like, what was the biggest challenge for you during that time?
Well, in different like, you know, places on that timeline for me, there was like moments where I didn't want to be here anymore. I was like, why am I here? Like, this is ridiculous. I don't get to sleep. I have to like have he had, my second child, actually, one where I got the postpartum depression from, had colic. So
Mm,
that was fun. So you have a screaming baby all day long, you know, and it showed me like I can't just be here, or gave me a glimpse out of the window. Like I can't just be here just to have a baby that screams its head off all day long and having these horrible thoughts in my mind. And you know what I mean? Just looking back, it was just really challenging to get through the day, honestly. If I'm honest with you, it was actually the biggest challenge was to just get through my day. So, you know, I didn't work at the time too, and being new and not having a lot of friends and not having that support system until I found it. You know, I remember pushing my kids through the through the snow, like up to my knees, uphill and back to to the the earlier center, because there was a meeting. I'm like, I got to get there, and I didn't. We only had one car, so Chad had the car, and I remember pushing my kids through the snow in this stroller. Like that's not hard. That's not easy to do.
no. And
And
if
I'm
you're
like,
not
no,
from
like
Ontario, you maybe don't
no,
understand it too.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I was determined, but these things made me determined to not give up,
Mhm.
right? So if any, I know maybe I'm psychic and jumping ahead, but like any advice I want to give to anyone is do not give up.
Mm.
Because when you're in the storm, you're like, it's like the tornado yesterday that I predicted, right? That happened in Ontario here. It's like, you know, well, yeah, the tornadoes, but like now you get to rebuild. Maybe you don't need that crap in your house. You know, maybe you get to move. I don't know. Maybe the tornado could be a gift. You
Mm.
don't know, but you don't know till the tornado's after, and it comes through your whole house. And then you go, oh, okay, this is why the tornado came. Now I get a push to do what I'm here to do, or where I'm supposed to go, or make a move, or follow spirit,
Mm.
right? So,
I actually like love that whole statement for a few reasons. Number one, I want to bring in the fact that we're talking about tornado, and I'm just thinking of The Wizard of Oz. It's my favorite movie.
yeah.
And when you think about it, like she had to go through that whole life-changing experience, right? I feel like there's so many spiritual lessons in The Wizard of Oz that I
Hmm.
dig through so often. Fun fact, Dorothy was my imaginary friend for years. uh,
That's awesome.
my bestie. I still am like, yeah, she was. Like she was there. I know
Yeah.
it. But I think there's so many lessons in that movie, and I'm kind of like bringing this into what you were just saying, because
Hmm.
obviously there was a tornado. It had to like clear out all of this stuff for her to find her own path in life and find the answers from within. She had them there the whole time, but she had
Yep.
to learn how to go through and meet her own courage, find
Hmm.
bravery, learn her
Yep.
heart, like all these things. And I just feel like that's actually very such a good resemblance of like what a Saturn return really is. Like you're trying to find the Wizard of Oz. I don't know. You're trying to find
Yeah.
your new path, like follow the yellow brick
Hmm.
road, right? And you're getting these glimpses of things that are
Yeah.
happening. And so the fact that you just said, like, don't give up, that is such a good statement for Saturn return because it pushes you. Saturn is relentless and
Yes.
doesn't let you give up.
No.
So I love that advice. I think that that's like, I'm going to take that for myself as well.
Spirit's like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've kind of like covered I think like a really good part of sort of your actual Saturn return. So do you want to talk a little bit of coming out of that and then what the transition was? Because I know you were at first, you were like mom, mom to
Yep.
medium or something. You want to go talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, first I was Reiki Mom. So my first thing I ever did. So this is what happened after. So just to clarify, there's more that could happen after your Saturn return is quote unquote over. Is right after all of that happened, I had a moment on my couch. It's in the book where I sat at like my son had the Lego, whatever. I threw the Lego and I lost my mind inside. Like I snapped. That was like the biggest Saturn return you want to call it from him throwing the Lego. But that also in the moment was a tornado. But then after the tornado, I was like, on the floor and I'm questioning everything. I'm like, oh my God, I have to do something crazy or I got to feel alive. Like I just felt dead inside. It was, and then hearing the voice for the first time, which was, I think was my grandma. And she's like, get off the floor. And I'm like, no, just leave me here. I want to die. I hate my life, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, you have more to do. So you have to get off the floor and get in the shower. And I was like, okay, like she meant business or whoever that voice was meant business. So I got in the shower. And ever since I did that, that one voice came in. Now the voice tells me to do everything. And it might sound crazy if you're not, into this kind of stuff. But if you're listening to this, I'm sure you are. But the voice, like my internal voice, maybe it was my internal voice that I heard for the first time on full blast. And now I only do, it took me 5 years, but I only do things that spirit leads me to. So if my spirit is like, move to Beaverton, which is an hour and a half away from your kids' friends, and it's by the water, guess what we're doing? We're moving here, right? So it allowed me so many things to tune into spirit and follow my inner knowing and my intuition and take Reiki and go here, go there. And everything I did
Mhm.
worked out for me for my highest good and got me to where I am today. It was like this divine, invisible voice. It wasn't a physical voice where people are freaking out. It was an internal voice, but it was not my voice saying, and now I just have learned that it's way better to listen to that voice.
Mm.
Just follow the voice. So yeah, so Reiki Moms was the first thing I did. The Reiki was my foundation, and then everything else that I do now was built on top of that. So the mediumship, the psychic, everything just sort of went up on that. So I call it my Jenga blocks.
The Jenga block. You're kind
Yeah.
of in a sense like rebuilding your, I guess, identity, your self, and like finding out who you
Yeah.
are through that process. So it would make sense
Well,
you're building these.
nobody would recognize me. Even my appearance changed. I used to have, I call it boy hair. I
Mhm.
was like heavier. I had boy hair. My eyebrows were hairy. I didn't know about waxing your eyebrows. And I remember going to work one day at the school and someone was like, "Oh, something about your eyebrows." I'm like, oh, "You're supposed to wax your eyebrows?" Like I didn't know that, right? Like I had no idea. I'm just a mom getting through my day. And so like not even that, but my appearance changed. My hair is longer now. I dress different. Like I would never buy those clothes that I used to wear back then. And so it's just a continual involvement for the better.
Wow, that's like,
Hmm.
I love that so much. I feel like I relate a lot in this aspect
Hmm.
because I think like when we're talking about like an identity shift, right? Or like whenever you're
Hmm.
changing on the inside, like things on the outside change too, and vice versa. Like when your
Yes.
outside changes, your inside
Yes.
does. It shifts. So yeah, that's a really, really good one. I haven't dug much into like the actual appearance side of Saturn return,
Hmm.
but I am knowing certain people who have already been through their Saturn return, I can see how that would
Hmm.
actually be very
Yeah.
on point. So
Yeah,
uh,
because you can't look the same if you're not that same person. It has to be a match to it. This is energy. How you dress and how you look, how you do your hair is energy. So
yeah.
it has to match the energy. Like for me, I see some spiritual people wearing like big long muumuus and stuff. I'm like, not. I would never wear that, but that's good for them. Do you know what I mean? And so like, just thinking about the old Reitman's size 14 cords I used to wear, like turtlenecks up to here, and I would never do that now. But that's because it's changed and it shifted for as the involvement goes.
I feel like that actually, as you're
Mm-hmm.
saying that, it's like you almost like opened yourself up more. Like if you were covering yourself up and like,
Yes.
it's almost like, what were you hiding?
Yes. Well, my extra weight from the medication.
Mm,
Seriously.
yeah.
Yeah, so all of it makes total sense to me, and I never really, I mean, I focused on it, but I never really, like, dug into it, which I'm doing right now. It's like, "Oh my god, I even changed my looks." Like,
Yeah.
if you see me, like, 5 years ago on my old City Medium videos, I actually look different now. Like, my face, I can see the difference in my face,
Mm,
right? So your whole body changes with the energy behind it. Whatever you're working on or changing actually will change your physical appearance.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
which is
actually,
cool to watch.
like, obviously, like I talk a lot about mental health,
Mhm.
and mental health does do a lot to our appearances.
Yes.
I think that's pretty clear. So if you are someone who's like going through depression or,
Mhm.
anything, of course, like I always am such a big advocate for finding help. But I really love, Jen, how you actually brought up like if you're not spiritual or, into
Mhm.
this kind of stuff, that might sound crazy to some people. And I really, really, really want to like normalize for people that, we are beings who are spiritual, having a human experience. Heard that on
Mhm.
the Oprah podcast yesterday, so I just thought I'd add that
Mhm.
there. But when we're going through these human emotions, such as like, whether it's postpartum depression, whether it's depression,
Mhm.
whether it's anxiety, whatever it is, your body is trying to communicate something with you. And as Jen just said, it does show up in our
Yes.
appearances. It does make our
Yes.
faces like, even for me, like I'm like, I, have had, I'm in my Saturn return. It's been quite a doozy of a couple years. And I'm like, my jaw is so
Mhm.
much bigger than it ever was before because I'm holding stress in here.
Yep.
And I think that translates as you start to kind of do work on yourself and as, you're delayering from whatever it is that you're carrying emotionally, it will start to shed or move in different ways. That's how energy works. So I really love that
Yep.
you brought that up.
Yeah, and emotions are very powerful.
Mm,
And people don't really understand. Some people do, but some people don't understand. Like all the readings that I do, people have no idea. They're like, "Well, I went to the doctor and they don't find anything." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's an emotional thing. It's energy, and their CT scan doesn't pick up emotions. They should make machines that do that. That would be very helpful, and then they could target the emotion that is causing the pain in their body, or the weight gain, or the whatever, because it's energy,
mm,
right? And emotion is energy in motion. Like if you think about that, that's like crazy to think about, but it is. And so every thought that you have, oh, I'm so fat. Well, guess what happened? Boom, you're gonna gain weight.
yeah,
Oh, my face is breaking out. Oh, guess what? Your face is gonna break out. But like you said, it's trying to tell you something.
yeah. And you know what I've been doing now when I get a breakout? Hi,
Uh,
sweetie. I'll touch it. I'm like, hi, you know what? You're going to get better.
yeah. I love you. I love you so
I'm like,
much.
you know what? You're just showing me that maybe I had a little bit too much chocolate, but you know what? I love that
You know
chocolate. And
what? You know, we're laughing at that, but honestly, I've gained like 15 pounds, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but I'm used to being a size like 6, and I don't know, like a 10. And I've gained a whole bunch because of the pandemic, and that's how my body protected itself. So what I would normally do is go, "Oh my god, I feel so horrible. I'm so fat. And look at this." And now I'm like, "You know what? Oh yeah, look at that. More of me to love. Woohoo." Like, you know what I mean? And I'm embracing it instead of resisting it, which would just cause more weight gain. And so now I'm just going to love me. So that's a whole other shift too in the Saturn return
mm,
crapola that you think is because you actually what you get out of it sometimes is self-love or a little bit closer to loving the house of you.
ooh,
Yeah.
okay. A little bit closer to loving the house
Yes.
of you. I
Yeah.
freaking love that. It's so true. The amount of people who are,
Yeah.
and I don't know, maybe you can relate, but like the older I get, this is one of the things I love about getting older is I'm like, I really actually don't care that I have a dimple in my chin. I really like it. Or, I
Mhm.
don't care if I have a little bit of cellulite on my legs. I truly don't care. Whereas, like in our early 20s, it's like, how can I work out to like be the skinniest person here? And it's like, no, like that's not what this is about.
Nope.
So I love that so much.
Yeah. Because it is hard to love ourselves. I'm not saying I totally love myself, but I'm starting to recognize when I don't love the parts of my house. And I'm like, you know what? It's the same amount of energy to hate it. Why wouldn't I shift it into trying to like it or just being nicer to it?
Totally.
It's literally housing my soul, which is the essence of who I am and where I'm from. So why would I be mean to it?
Mm. Your
Yeah,
temple.
that's a shift that
Yeah.
comes out of Saturn Return.
Yeah. That is a huge shift actually, because yeah, you're learning yourself, you're learning, to love yourself, you're learning to love this meat suit that you're
Yep.
here with experiencing
Yep.
life. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mhm.
Um, I guess like to kind of tie it in, you did give a little bit of advice for people. What is something that you would say to that version of Jen, like back then, if you could see her now?
I would I would say don't try to control anything.
Mm,
Because control is a big thing for me. I have so many speaking of lessons, right? So many lessons in the Saturn return of trying to control things that are out of my control. Um, that's a big lesson for people to learn because I know a lot of us like to control things, thinking that we can control an outcome or control other humans or not or let our spouses do something or you know what I mean? And that is so not who we are. It's just who we believe we are to be. So the advice I would give is can you let go of control a little bit more than you did yesterday? And when you can get closer to that, then I would say stay neutral
mm,
as much as you can about things that are very emotional. Like, yes, feel your emotions. I'm not saying skip them over, and I'm not saying, bury them. I'm saying feel them, but I'm saying, can you be neutral about something that you would normally get upset about or control, like money, right?
mm,
That's what I would tell me. Stop worrying about the money. The money always comes. As spiritual entrepreneurs, we all struggle with that. I would say 90% of us struggle with that, right?
mm,
But the more I meditate, and I would say meditate more as well too. The more I meditate, the more I hear the guidance from spirit. Spirit's like, be easy about it. I'm like, that's so easy. We like to make things so hard. Why are we making everything so hard? Just be neutral about it, and things will start to change.
mm.
So I mean, there's more than one thing, but I could go on and on. But those are the main points that I have learned, and my future self has advice for everyone here. Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
Oh, I love that. I think that's another big part of like, I guess, evolution, or I don't know if you want to call it ascending or what
Mm,
it is that you want to call it, learning
yeah.
to like it actually gets to be more simple. And for some reason, like,
Yes.
we're so hard on ourselves, and like I am very, very hard on myself. So,
Yes. Me
um,
too.
it's so interesting. So yeah, when you actually say that, it's like one day and maybe 20 years from now, like are we gonna look back and be like, you should have just played. You should have just had some fun. Like you should have just, or
Should have
whatever.
made a sandcastle on the beach. Just
Go follow Jen on
oh
Instagram. I'll put it all below as well. But like loving these, I love these like revelations that you're experiencing while you're going
yeah,
through this transit.
yeah.
Um, Okay, so I love that. So do you want to just like kind of lead us into where you are now and how maybe that connected?
So, well, I'm always changing and, you know, remembering more things. Like every day I'm waking up to more and more truths that were buried under the amnesia. You know what I mean? Things that were like, and you know what I just, it hit me now is that people are still living in the version of me that they used to know. So let's just say there was someone who knew me like at that school when I worked there. They wouldn't recognize me now physically or kind of what I do or like the person I am now because the person back then was worried about everything, what people thought, trying to impress everybody, validation, look at me, do the best you can be. And now they would be like, who are you? Because I'm not so intense about it. I'm just more intense about other things that I know are important, right? Like meditation, enhancing your gifts, letting spirit bring you the people who you're supposed to work with instead of chasing after them,
Mm,
right? It's just a continuation of that and just going, again, carrying on that mantra of like, I'm just going to be easy about it. I'm just going to be easy about it. And the more you do that, you start to let go, which we all have a hard time surrendering, right? So I've just decided to surrender my entire life, my business, everything to the universe. And instead, I pray for the highest good of all.
yeah.
And then I don't have to do much. I don't have to try hard anymore. Because when you try hard, you're creating resistance. You create that block, you create that wall around you, right? And so all these things are now, I'm remembering them all, like they're coming all online, like this, I don't know, these crazy lights all of a sudden, like at this light show. And I'm like, whoa, 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 one at a time, but we're getting them all at once. But yeah, just like making things easier for myself instead of trying to make it hard. Yeah, I have moments where I'm like, oh crap, car payment is due tomorrow. But I've never not been able to pay my car payment
Mm,
ever, because I know the universe has my back. Some people might forget that from time to time, but that's the ultimate truth, is that the universe and spirit has your back. Spirit would have said, hey, Court, you should quit your teaching job. Like, Jen, haha, here's no money. Like,
I know.
you know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. Why would the universe do that?
I
But
know.
you also have to do your part of it too, right? Where you have to let go and you have to rest and play and all these things that you talk about as well too. You got to do, because sometimes we can preach really good and sometimes we're not doing the stuff that we're telling people to do. So you got to call yourself out your own crap too.
Give me a huge message.
But we have to do, we have to be accountable to ourselves. We have
Yeah.
to call ourselves on our own crap. That's
Yeah.
part of the work. That's part of the work, man. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it really is. And I think like, when you surrender to the path of, let's say, your soul, which is what Saturn is trying to teach you,
Yes.
of course there's work to be put in. That's the
Yes.
thing
Yep.
with Saturn that I think why people are like, "Oh, it's so hard." Because of course it would just be great if we could just sit back and be like, I'm not going to do anything, but it does
Yep.
require action in a
Yes.
way that I think it's more about trusting action. So it's when you like, I think for us, like for me, for example, and this is why I relate to you, it's like surrendering to your own intuitive messages, moving
Yes.
along that path. That comes with a lot of internal work, which means you got to be doing some reprogramming, belief work,
Yep.
whether it's meditating, whatever it might be. It's like there is action in all of those
Yes.
processes so that you can clear away the gunk, like you said, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
tune into more of who you are. So I think that that is the work, and then also it is about um practicing what you preach. So,
Hey, I've done it myself. I've been like, hey, surrender. Hey, you should do that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even doing that. Why? It's easy for us because we have that knowledge and
yeah.
we want to, share it with everyone and come across as the quote unquote expert. But are we the expert of ourselves? Like, can we apply that stuff to ourselves?
Mm.
I'm really good at coaching people to do this kind of stuff, but can I coach myself?
Exactly, exactly. I know. It is wild. That's so funny. You know how okay, so Dorothy is around or something right now. Judy Garland, where you at? She's my favorite. But I was just thinking how in that movie it's Surrender Dorothy.
They actually put it in the sky,
Yeah.
right? They paint it in the sky literally for you to look up and read.
Okay,
No,
every
I know what I'm doing. It's fine. My
yeah.
way is working really well. And then one day you wake up, you're like, oh my God, nothing is happening. What's going on? And you got to look up. Okay. Just look up at what it says up there.
Surrender Dorothy. That should be the title of
Dorothy,
this whole thing. I think the
love it.
main lessons of
Yes.
Saturn Return, frickin' surrender.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that can be annoying when people say that over and over, but there's actually a like 99.99999% truth to it. If you can master that, and it does take practice. You don't get it in one day. You don't. You get through meditation, you get through practice, you get through trial and error. You get it through, well, this isn't working for me. Forcing things is not working for me. So what if I tried something different? Because I like to say to people, like, how's that working for you? Like, how's that working for you?
That is a
They're
really good
like,
line.
they're like, oh, I guess if it was working for me, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
Hmm.
Right?
It's a really good line. It's something to definitely like think about.
Mm,
I really like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this has been so good and so juicy and lots of different like like pieces of the puzzle coming in here, but they do all really represent what a Saturn return is. And yes, just to remind people that,
Yep.
Saturn is in your chart. You're always going to have these energies of lessons to learn when you're having a Saturn transit, which there's more than just a Saturn return, but primarily for a Saturn return, you get another one. So Jen will have another one when she's 58, 61.
I can, I'll be a pro by then. It's fine. I'll be like on the beach going, come and get me. Come at
Yeah.
me, bro.
Okay.
I'm ready for you.
Yeah. Surrender. But the interesting thing is though, and I'll make a little prediction here. So this is tends to what can happen during our Saturn return is similarities will reignite or happen again. So for someone who has maybe in their first Saturn return had kids, it's pretty common for one of their kids to have kids or get married, something about their family expanding during that time. So you never know.
Cool.
When you're
I'll let you
60,
know.
yeah. You might be having a
'Cause
couple grandkids.
yeah, that's fine by me.
Yeah.
I'm a psychic. I can tap into their future timelines and tell them. They're like, we don't want to know. I'm like, I already know it's gonna happen. I already know it's gonna happen.
Wait, can I just, like, ask a question of this really
Yeah,
quick? Are
yeah.
your kids, like, how are they with their gifts?
So my youngest daughter would be the most in tune.
Mm,
I kind of think they all have a tiny bit of it right now. Like the youngest one, if she really worked at it, she could do what I do in the future.
mhm.
But not a lot. I would say like my 16, 17-year-old, he said to me, he was working out in the basement. It's an unfinished basement in this new house. And he goes, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. I'm like, what? He's like, I saw a ghost. I'm like, oh, what? And he's like, yeah, it looked like you were standing right in front of me, but it's a man with a beard and a hat, and he was wearing a mailman suit. And I was like, he goes, my stomach just dropped. I'm like, did you run upstairs? He's like, no. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm like, you're a medium. He's like, no, I'm not. Don't say that. No, I'm not. But if you can see spirit, guess what?
Wow, yeah,
But
that's
I
so
can't even see them. I can't even see spirit. I'm clairaudient. I'm not clairvoyant. He saw a physical manifestation of spirit in this house.
wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really
Yeah,
cool. I think the
it
reason
is.
why I asked too is like,
Yeah.
there's I'm so fascinated with the way we could do a different we'll do another talk on this
Mhm.
one day, maybe on my own YouTube channel, but like
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated with obviously kids, like I've worked with kids my whole life, but I would love to be their spiritual teacher, like for kids,
Yes.
like to be
Yes.
in a school being like, no, we're learning this. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm so fascinated with them because their astrology, especially coming, choosing parents who are very tapped in and, tuned into all these different energies. So that's why I asked, because I feel like if
Mhm.
you had a Saturn return where it was in the sign of Cancer and you're having kids and you're a medium, psychic medium, it's like, what pathway are you opening for your children?
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure the youngest would be able to, if she worked at it when she was older, she could totally do what I do. She'd be
Mm,
the only one I could think of that would,
yeah.
but yeah, she's seen spirit before. When she was younger, she was more into it with crystals and stuff like that, but not
Mm,
right now because she's going to be a teenager soon. So
right.
maybe after that.
They gotta go through their
They
process.
got to do their own thing, be their own self.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen, well, thank you so much. This is so
Oh,
much
thank you.
fun. Now
Yeah.
I always like say it's funny because I feel like all the people that are coming on here, they
Mhm.
have such amazing things to share with the world, but we don't really talk about like your business stuff. But I do want to give you a chance to just be like where to find you, what do you offer, like how can people work with you if they want to or get in touch?
Yeah, so this is a good time. I do regular stuff. I do like the psychic medium stuff and the mentoring and the Reiki. However, with all these transitions that are coming on with my trine and whatever the heck is going on, I can do way more things that I just started calling my secret menu. So I'll tell you about the secret menu is that if you're a business owner, I can literally tap into your divine business plan.
Mm,
So we all have a divine business plan, and I can bring that down to you and give it to you. I tell you your blocks. I can tell you your past lives that are stopping you from moving on, and a lot of the things that are why you're having trouble in your business right now is usually because of a past life, not so much your human self. So all these cool things I can tell you, like what steps to take. It saves you a lot of trouble. Like I've been doing this for 6 years. I would have killed to have someone tell me 5 years ago, here's what you do, here's what you don't do, this is what you're
yeah.
supposed to do. Don't try that because that's not going to work. Right. So I build the psychic and the download of the business plan and help people that way, which is really exciting. In fact, people just messaging me saying, I want that. I'm like, because that's kind of different, I think.
Yeah, it is.
It's
I'm gonna
different.
have one next week, I think. I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
you are. You are.
yeah. I feel like that's so cool. So, yeah, Jen, and again has pops up and does like little free readings for her community. So if you want to check out, her and
Yeah.
also her.
Every Wednesday night after the radio show, I do free readings.
Okay, but Chad is really stealing the show these days. So,
I know.
I'm
Like his okay, if there's views are like double when Chad is on the show. I'm like, okay, that's rude. Like people don't want to see me. Like I don't understand. Like it's like 2,000 views on these things. I'm like, with me it's just 500. I'm like, okay, guess what? You're
I
hired. You got to come on the show.
I am pushing for either a YouTube channel or a podcast with you
Yeah.
two on it called like The Spiritual Couple or some, I don't know,
Well,
like
he came up with the name. He came up with the name because he's a firefighter, so he thinks we should call it Spirit on Fire. He came up with
done,
that.
done. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And I think that like this would be so cool for people who are in partnerships.
Yeah.
And because the divine masculine is waking up. And all these things. So I just feel like it would be so cool. Anyway, you can go check her out. I'll leave everything in the description bar / show notes. But yeah, thanks, Jen. Thanks for coming and doing
No, thank you so much. It's always fun hanging out with you, and I'll see you within a year or
because
sooner.
because I'm going on Big Brother, people, and what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have to go back to Ontario
Yes.
first.
We're
So,
all going to have a big party to celebrate your success.
yay, amazing. Okay, so with all that being said, we'll leave that here. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and yeah, come hit us up on Instagram if you want. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Bye.